Hey, getting you another Duke update. So getting out on these walks now that we're getting warmer and warmer weather, seeing a lot more people outside. So what I want to start having you guys do with him is really watching, learn to watch body language. And I test a lot of the body language I see with obedience. So as we get out on the walk and he's doing things like pulling on a leash, or he's just completely out of heel position or sniffing the ground, or he's really exuberant, it's not the best way to start my walk. Sometimes I'll see it with his tail. If his tail, his little lion tail, is really high and tight up in the air, what that tells me is that he has some adrenaline going through him. So typically that's going to lead to the other behaviors like pulling on the leash. So you see, as I turn and make him think about the position, he slows down and he's more aware of me. You're going to see that tail go down. And a lot of people are like, oh, is it because he's scared? His tail's not tucked. It's just relaxed and calmer because he has to think about me versus the environment. And that's hard. Sometimes he'll lag a little bit behind because that's really hard on the brain to be in a highly stimulating environment and focus on one thing. So, it's hard on anybody's brain or nervous system. So anytime he's out of position, I'm using a little bit of e-collar and some body language to guide him back in. So I'm not using a ton of leash right now. If I need it, it's there, but I want it to be pretty relaxed where there's a slight curve in the leash. But I want him tucked in. I don't want him really out of position where he's too far wide or too far ahead. I want him tucked in. So if I turn left, he has to cater to my space and almost stop. And sometimes he's got to really slow down to cater to me. And then if I turn this way, he's got to stay in position. So he got a little bit behind me, a little bit ahead of me. So I'm using just e-collar in those times, so a little bit more frequently. And so because I'm using it more frequently and I'm being a little bit more demanding, I want to make sure that the e-collar is at an appropriate level. So I don't want it to be too low where I'm pressing the button and I get zero reaction. And I don't want it to be too high where the reaction is really dramatic. So it's right in this sweet spot of, and that changes. That's going to change every single day. So right now we're on a 14. We're at the start of the walk. Yesterday it was an 8. Tomorrow it could be different. It just depends because this is our first training session of the morning. Heel. But he's coming down a little bit. I'm going to go down to 5 and see what that looks like. So there we go. 5 is great. And sometimes you'll see that throughout the walk is the adrenaline is higher when we first leave the house. Excitement levels are higher, maybe nerves. So we have all different kinds of factors that are going to play into the e-collar stimulation. So I want to talk about some other things that I see with him. So sometimes asking him to do a downstay when people are around can just really help him not feel so protective. And there's a couple reasons for it. Number one is having him do a downstay. He has to give up a little bit of drama in order to do that. So if you have a dog that's I'm going to get protective and defensive, they are not going to lay down willingly to do a downstay because that's so vulnerable for them when they're in a state of defense. So that's number one, is we're promoting some vulnerability and having him drop some drama a little bit. Number two is he has to trust you. So he has to trust that you are going to handle the situation and he doesn't need to take charge of that situation. So it can help change the dynamic in the relationship between you and him. And so that's why he doesn't guard me. It has nothing to do with like me being like different or anything. It's just, that's the simple fact is, if I see something in dogs that tells me they want to get protective over me, I try to lean into the obedience aspect and say, okay, what can I do here to ask this dog something different in this dynamic, in this situation. So I don't have a ton of people out right now. There's school is still in, so we're just going to work on it a couple times, and I'm going to show you what I see. So I'm going to ask him, Duke, down. Good boy. So a little bit tighter in his body language, right? Like he did it. We've practiced this a lot, but he, you know, kind of tucks in a little bit because there is discomfort in this, like being vulnerable to do a down stay. Okay, good job, buddy. Good boy. He's like, okay, little tail wag. I did it. There is some vulnerability here, even if there's nobody around. Duke, down. Good. Sometimes with him, I'll see, like I saw this a little bit yesterday on our walk with my daughter, is sometimes he'll like look around. Like he did it a little bit right there, like where he's like, I got to make sure that it's safe for me to lay down. And so I want to practice this a lot with him, so that slowly starts to go away. I'm not necessarily going to correct that behavior of like looking around. That's just communicating to me that there's some discomfort and lack of trust. And so we want to do this a lot so that it's just normal. Okay, good. So this would be functional. Like, let's say I'm walking down the street and my neighbor comes out to get something out of their car, and he's like, oh, now there's a person on the street. Duke, down. I'm just going to ask him to lay down. Good boy. And then I might have a conversation, you know, with that person or whatever. But he needs to know, like, it's not you're not in this to protect me. They're not even talking to you. And I do want to advocate for him, because if he is in this vulnerable place and I force him to be social in this state of mind and in this position, somebody coming over the top of him, that would not be fair. That would be really unfair for me to say, go ahead and pet him and love on him when he's just uncomfortable. That would just be like totally not respecting any of, you know, his boundaries that he needs. Okay, good boy. But really, like, it's you know, that's where like advocating for him and where he is, like it's this balance of, I'm going to advocate for where you're uncomfortable, but I'm also going to push you through obedience to lean into some of this discomfort so that long term you can handle discomfort overall. And that might be like, and we've talked about this, where he may never be like this, hey, I love everybody type of dog. Like, let me go up and say hi to everybody. We don't know what the future looks like. We don't have a crystal ball. Like, but the goal here is that he can handle when people come over and not react. He may not want affection from them. He may not want to cuddle them, but he can handle and coexist in that kind of a situation. So really, really clear boundaries with him. Like this, you know, we're doing downstays out here, but like if we're in the house, we would do a place command. You could do a downstay too, but placing is just a little bit easier. Duke, down. Good. So I'm purposely kind of leaving him there and stepping away from him because I want to promote a stay, you know, with this. Like, I'm asking him to lay down and I'm moving away, and maybe he gets up, and that's an opportunity to just work on the obedience itself. He probably will get up if he's uncomfortable and he wants to be more codependent with us or more protective of us. And so this takes the relationship to a whole new level if I can get you guys to follow through on these things, where somebody comes up, you tell him down, maybe he doesn't want to, we follow through with e-collar, maybe he breaks a couple times, we follow through, and we do this over and over again, where the follow through promotes this. Like yesterday, this was hard for him. Today I haven't corrected him once on the down. I've done a few little corrections on the heel, but not anything crazy. just little reminders. Okay, good. Good, even that dog barking. The dog always sees us because they've got like a perfect window up there. Good. Duke, down. So great. So a little bit harder down, a little bit. I did a little correction there because now that we actually have something that might be threatening to us, that's going to be harder for him. Good. Okay, we might do it a couple times. Duke, down. Good, so no correction. He did it. And that's what the follow through does promote, is less and less corrections. But we have to be willing to only give him that one opportunity. So I say down once. If he doesn't do it, I come in with e-collar immediately and stay really, really, really consistent with my training styles. And that's going to be important for everybody in the house, that everybody's consistent. If people, and we're never going to be perfect, like, you know, but if we're like 90% consistent, that's going to be great. So what I mean by that, if like somebody takes him for a walk and is like, I'm not going to put the e-collar on him, but then somebody else has to use the e-collar a little bit more, it's inconsistent, and it's communicating to him different things, and that's not fair. Okay, Duke, heel. Because it's not fair for him, but it's also not fair for the person trying to follow through, because if I'm the one following through and somebody else in the household isn't, I have to follow through that much more and correct that much more, which is harder on me in my relationship with him, Duke heel, and then harder on him because he has to be corrected more in some situations, and then it becomes very gray, and dogs just don't thrive in gray areas. So yeah, so as long as we can make sure that he is, we're being consistent, and everybody's, you know, being consistent with the rules in the house, and that's the kind of stuff, like, I'd like to do a session when he's done, maybe a couple sessions where we work in the house, because, you know, your house setup is a little bit different. When they go potty, it's different than my house. So I want to make sure I can give you guys some tools on what to do and stay really consistent with that. And it doesn't take like a ton of time. It just might mean that the routine with the dogs might change a little bit for the time being. So, good job, buddy. Practice stopping. Good. Heel. Good boy. He's doing really good.